Hey everyone, welcome to Interactive English. My name is Wes, and this channel is all about helping you practice and improve your English. And today, I have a fun vocabulary lesson for you because I want to talk to you about the animal groups. I want to talk to you about the different names for animal groups. And this is a great way to build and expand your vocabulary because sometimes, we talk about animals, and if they are in groups, it's nice to be able to know how to refer to these animals and the word that we use in English to call these animals. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. So thank you guys for joining me. If you're joining me in the chat, in the comments, write your name, tell me where you're from, because I just want to hear from you. So hello, Lali, Orlando, Angela, Samuel, Petri, Gertrudis, Alyssa. Thank you guys for joining me today. Let's just get right to it. So I told you today we're going to talk to you about animal groups. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you the animal and then tell you the name of the group, what we would call a group of animals. So let's just start with this. When we're talking about the names of these groups, they're called, we use collective nouns. And these are nouns that we use to refer to a group of animals. We could use it to refer to a group of people. But when we assign a name to it, it is a collective noun. So let's first, do you see that picture right there? We're going to start with this picture. Now, if you have a picture of these, they're up here. These animals right here, what would you call a group of birds? What do you think? And this, I think, is one of the more common ones, that if we're talking about a group of birds, then you would say that it is a flock of birds. So flock, this is the collective noun that you would use when you are referring to a group of birds. Now, one thing you should know about the word flock, that this is actually a generic name that can be used for any large group of animals or people. So flock is a very generic one. That's why I said I think this may be the most common one. So you can use it to talk about a flock of birds, a flock of sheep. If you want to refer to even a group of children, you could say, wow, there was just a flock of children at the zoo. They were all running around. It was a flock of children. You could say a group of children as well, but this is just to show you that flock, it can be used as a generic name for any large group. Or maybe you travel somewhere and there were a flock of tourists. There were so many tourists, it was a large group. So you can use flock to refer to a large group. Let's look at a few more. Are you ready? So as you can see, you have a bunch of elephants here. If we're talking about a group of elephants, think about it. I want you to see as we go through these, think about the word that you would use to describe these animals. A group of elephants is a parade of elephants. If you see a group and like, wow, okay, that parade of elephants, that is the word that you use to refer to a group. Now, what about these birds in particular? Now, these black birds, if you don't know, they are crows. Crows are black birds that you find out on farms. That's where you might have heard the word a scarecrow, which are those that it looks like almost like a person. They stick them out in the field to scare away the crows. So if you have a group of crows, it is called a murder of crows. A murder is a group. Now, one thing that you might be wondering is, where do these names come from? Because I think often you might hear some words like a flock. That is more common. That is something that you may read about or hear, or you may even use if you're talking about a group of birds that you see or you want to describe a large group. Some of these other words I think are a little more specific. Maybe you might read about them if you are reading about an academic book or an article that is about nature and animals. Then you might see some of these terms. But some of them, they're like a parade of elephants, a murder of crows. You probably like, okay, where do these come from? And this is great stuff because I have learned a lot in doing this lesson, because some of these names, I don't think many native speakers don't know many of these words, because again, it's not something you're going to go out and use in everyday English, but it is fun. So these names, just for a little context, they are called terms of venery. And this is derived from English hunting tradition in the late Middle Ages. So people that would hunt back then, they came up with these terms, and there's this book called the Book of St. Albans, which was published in 1486. Now, this book it's a collection of essays from different authors, and they didn't really name the authors, but one name that did come up in the book was Juliana Berners, and she is one of the known authors. And they came up with these names to refer to groups of animals. Oxford Dictionary believes that the names were not intended to be taken seriously. They came up with sometimes these funny or entertaining names for these groups, and they believe that the names should not be taken seriously. However, after the book was published, other writers started using these names, and then more people started using these names, and eventually they just became the names for these groups of animals. So if you're wondering, okay, why does it have such a weird name? This is the reason right here, that the names came up with a long time ago, 1486, and I don't think they were meant to be taken seriously, but more people started using them, and they became part of the language. So here we have a butterfly. All right. What do you think? A butterfly. If you have a group of butterflies, if you don't know it, it is called a flutter. A flutter of butterflies. This is a group of butterflies. All right, the next one, I think this one, maybe a little more common. Lions, I think you find lions as characters in stories, movies as well. And lions also, you find them in groups quite often. So if there is a group of lions, do you know what word refers to a group of lions? Write it in the chat, write it in the comments. Again, try to think if you can come up with these. And it's a good way, again, you're building your vocabulary. You're learning new words because you know what a lion is, but a group of lions is called a pride of lions. And again, now that you know the story about this group of people came up with these names, and they were just fun, entertaining names. Some of them make sense, like lions. You think of strength and pride. You're proud, a pride of lions. What about the next one? Here we have some ants. And I'm sure all of you have seen ants, especially as a group. They work, I think many of them, they work really hard. And if you have a group of ants that live together, that is called a colony of ants. Now, one thing I will show you is the same with flock. You could have a flock of birds or a flock of sheep. Some of these collective nouns you can use to refer to more than one animal, as well as there may be different collective nouns that can refer to one animal, which I will show you. So if you're talking about a colony, this is a collective noun that can refer to a colony of ants, a colony of bees. As I said, you could have more than one collective noun. You could also say that there is a swarm of bees. That is another collective noun when talking about bees. You could have a colony of rats, as well as a colony of penguins. So again, with collective nouns, you may have more than one to describe an animal. So you can have a colony of penguins, and there are two more words that can describe a group of penguins. It can describe a group of penguins that are outside of the water, and then there's another word that describes a group of penguins when they are in the water and they're swimming around. So there are three different collective nouns when talking about a group of penguins. So in general, you could say a colony of penguins, but if the penguin is outside of the water, it is called a raft. A group of penguins out of the water is a raft of penguins. And if the penguins are swimming in the water, a group of penguins is called a waddle of penguins. The next one, let's keep moving on. A lot of these to go over with you today. And again, I don't expect you to memorize all of these. The best way to learn it is just to get exposure to do a lesson like this, and you see it once, and then if you read about it later on, eventually you'll start to take hold of that vocabulary word up in your head, and it'll just become a part of your active vocabulary. So this is just a way to get some exposure and learn about some of these new words. So a fish, a group of fish. If you have a group of fish, such as those swimming right here around that coral, you would talk about a school of fish. And again, I think this one may be a little more common because most of the planet is water, and fish, again, it's something you might read about in articles, storybooks, maybe in movies, and you would talk about a group as a school of fish. The next one, this is a good one, a group of owls. Now, this is one that, I don't think there are many people that probably don't know this. Because typically, I don't know if we think of owls as groups, but if we're talking about a group of owls. When you think of owls, I think most people think of the word wise. Owls are very smart. They're very wise. They have a lot of wisdom. And in that case, a group of owls is called a parliament. So just like the form of government, if you have a group of owls, it is called a parliament. Now, this right here, this is a jellyfish. You find these jellyfish out in the ocean. You don't maybe want to swim with them because those tentacles, they can sting you. But if you have a group of jellyfish, again, some of these words are just, I think, very funny, very entertaining, a little crazy. A group of jellyfish is called a smack, all right? And then we have, what about these guys right here? These hippos. What do you think? A group of hippos. So these are very large animals, these hippos right here. And a group, if you have a group of these hippos, it is called a bloat. A bloat. And one way you could think about this, I feel like hippos are very big. They have very big stomachs. And if you eat too much and your stomach feels it just feels like it's expanded, it's too big, a little heavy, you could say you feel bloated. Your stomach is bloated. So a group of hippos is called a bloat. What about this one? Maybe a little easier. I think, again, this might be a little more common because these are wolves, and wolves are often found in groups. So typically, wolves will hunt together, they will live together in a group, and we call that group what? What do you think? Do you guys know? A group of wolves? I told you, I think it's a little more common because I think, again, these animals, they live in groups. It is a pack of wolves. Now, we can use pack to talk about other animals as well. For example, you could say a pack of wolves, a pack of dogs, or even a pack of mules. So that is my picture of a wolf. It does look a little bit like a dog too, so I guess we'll stick with it. And then here is a mule down there, which if you don't know what a mule is, it is when you have a male donkey mate with a female horse. When a donkey mates with a horse, then you get a mule. And mules, they're typically used for carrying things up hills. So a pack of wolves, pack of dogs, and a pack of mules. The next one we have are these giraffe. What do you think? Giraffe, if you have a group of giraffe together, what do you think that's called? Any guesses? And again, this one, I think the way I would say they're common, it really depends on where you live. because some of these animals may be native to your country and you may see them quite often. Other times, maybe you've never seen a giraffe except for at the zoo, so it may not be as relevant. But that's why I said like a flock of birds, I think, is more common. But if you have a group of giraffe, it's called a tower. And again, think about it, it makes a little sense. Towers, they're very high, they're very tall. Giraffe are very tall animals. So a group of giraffe is called a tower of giraffe. The next one, those right there, these little guys right here are porcupines. Porcupines are those animals, I don't know if you can see on their skin, they have those sharp needles, and they're very sharp. And if you touch a needle, you can get what? There's a verb that goes with it. If you touch something sharp, you say, ow, I just got, And then think about that word, and then think about, well, what is the name of the group? Because again, once I show you the word, I think you'll think, oh, this makes sense. If you have a group of porcupines that have those those sharp needles on their backs, if you touch something sharp, you can get pricked. And it's like, oh, I just got pricked. So a group of porcupines is called a prickle. A group of porcupines is a prickle. The next one, I think this one, again, this is a little easier because when you think of cows, farming, it's something that I think people are a little more familiar with. So if you're talking about a group of cows, which again, you might often find cows in a group, you would refer to it as a what? What do you think? A group of cows. If you don't know, you're in luck because I'm going to tell you a group of cows is called a herd of cows. The next one that I have for you is this one. And this one is, well, this is a panda. And I think this one is, I think it's a little humorous. And I was actually very surprised. I had no idea what a group of pandas is called. It is an endangered animal. There are many pandas still in China, but it's not an animal that I think you see in your everyday life. But a group of pandas, any guesses as to what that is, write that in the chat, write that in the comments. I was very surprised to learn that a group of pandas is called an embarrassment. Actually, if you look it up, a group of pandas is called an embarrassment. So there are many, many, many names out there for these groups of animals. Again, these are collective nouns that you use to refer to these animals. So here, again, here is the list that we've gone over if we're talking about a flock, a parade, a flutter, a colony. And the ones that I would say that I think are more important that you will likely hear about or you may even want to use would be words like a flock of birds, because there are birds everywhere, or maybe a school of fish, or if you're talking about animals that you know always belong in a group, like a group of wolves, a pack of wolves, or even lions. I think a pride of lions. Those are, I think, a little more important because you're more likely to hear about if you're watching a movie or TV show, or read about if you're reading a magazine or some news article on nature. But the other ones, again, I think they can be a little more fun to learn. I think that's very interesting to learn these. Some of them were new to me. I had no idea a group of pandas is called an embarrassment. But this, again, is just a good way to build your vocabulary, to try to learn some new words, so that the next time you're having a conversation, if you happen to be talking about these animals, maybe you can listen for these group names or even try to use them the next time you are having a conversation and discussing these groups. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me. I know we went through this pretty quickly today and went through all these lessons. Let's review them quickly because this was pretty fast. So again, these are all collective nouns if you don't know the names of these. And we have the Name of a group of birds is a flock. If we have a group of elephants, it is a parade of elephants. Then we have a murder of crows. Next was a flutter of butterflies. Then we had a pride of lions, a group of lions. Next would be a colony of ants. I told you a colony has several different names. Penguins, you could have a colony of penguins. You could have a raft of penguins outside the water, a waddle of penguins inside the water. Then there is a school of fish, a parliament of owls, a smack of jellyfish. that is an entertaining one. A bloat of hippos. Could say that you could think that you are a little bloated. A pack of wolves, which I think is a little more of a common one. We had a tower of giraffe, a prickle of porcupines, a herd of cows, an embarrassment of pandas. So these are some of the animal groups. If you're interested in learning some more, let me throw a couple links here in the channel. These are the references that I used. This is one of them, and here is another one. And they list a bunch of animal names because I just went over a few of them with you. I just chose these right here to go over with you today. But if you're interested in learning more, check out those links in the chat right there. So thank you guys so much for joining me for today's lesson. Again, if you guys want to make a connection with us, if you want to join the interactive English community online, subscribe to our newsletter. We will give you access to the Secret Fluency Lesson, and there is a link to that right there if you want to subscribe. Email with us, stay connected with us. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you. Give some shout outs. Lali, Apmin, Romana, Malena, thank you. Aiden, Aziza, Usma, Marima, thank you guys for joining me today. Maria, Kati, Putri, Angela, Al-Ebrahamian, sorry if I mispronounce names, Hani, Sisi. I hope that you have maybe learned some new words. If you did learn a new word, please hit that like button, show us some love. And again, this is just a great way to get exposure to the language, learn some new words, and as you continue to read about these words, as you continue to hear about them, then you will actually put these words into your active memory, and they will just become a part of your vocabulary. So hope you guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next time. So long.